Good morning, Course 2, Mr. Belky back. Lesson 104 today, looking at semicircles, arcs, and sectors. Now, on the surface, this might seem a little difficult, so we have to be careful as we go through it and take it one step at a time. So first we're going to talk about a semicircle. When we're talking about a semicircle, we're talking about half of a circle. So going back, we have two different formulas that we've been using with circles. One is for the diameter of the circle, or I'm sorry, the circumference of the circle, and the circumference is equal to pi times the diameter. Okay, so if the circumference is equal to pi times the diameter, then for a semicircle or half of a circle, the circumference of that portion of it would be pi times the diameter divided by 2, because it's half of a circle. Also, for the area of a semicircle, so if the area of a circle is pi times the radius squared, then the area of a semicircle would be pi times the radius squared divided by 2. Okay, this is the semi, and this is the circle. Okay, so let's take a look at example 1. It says find the perimeter of this figure. Dimensions are in meters. So it's got 4 by 10 by 4. And then it's got a semicircle here, and it tells us the radius of that is 5. Okay, and that's a dotted line there. All right, so first we got to find the area, or the distance, because we're finding perimeter. So how much fencing would we have to put here? Well, since it's a semicircle, that is half of the complete distance around, half of a circumference. And so we'd look back at this formula. Circumference equals pi times the diameter divided by 2. So they tell us the radius is 5. So if the radius is 5, the diameter is 10. So pi, 3.14, times 10 is 31.4, and then we would take that and divide it by 2, which would equal 15.7. So I know from this point all the way to this point is 15.7, and to find the rest of the perimeter, I would add 4 plus 10 plus 4, which would give me a total of 33.7, and our label looks to be meters. Okay, so that's how you find the perimeter. Now, I could take this same shape and I could find the area. Remember the area of a circle is pi r squared, but it's a semicircle, so it's pi r squared divided by 2. In this case, the radius squared is 25. 25 times pi divided by 2 is 39.25. So the area of this is 39.25. Okay. Now I also have this shape, which is a 4 by 10. 4 times 10 is 40. So 39.25, and add 40 onto that, and we would get 79.25, and our label again is meters, and this time it's square meters because we're talking area. All right, so that's perimeter and area when we're using a semicircle. Now we're going to take a look at finding different sectors. So let's look at example 3. Here we have a circle, and within that circle there's a sector cut out and shaded. And they tell us this is 6 centimeters. And they tell us from here to here is 300 degrees. So if I started here and I turned all the way to here, I've made a 300 degree turn. Now it says find the area of the shaded sector. Okay, so I'm going to use this information because I know a full circle is 360 degrees, right? 360 degrees. So what's missing here, if I've turned 300, I'm missing 60 out of those 360 degrees. Or if I took this and I divided it into 6 sections, I would be missing one of those 6 sections. So if I take my formula for area of the whole thing and divide it by 6, that'll give me just the area of this little section, because this is 1/6 of the whole thing. Okay, I could multiply by 1/6, or I could just divide by 6. So again, area equals pi times the radius squared. Okay, so the pi is 3.14 times the radius, which is 6 squared, which would be 36. 3.14 times 36 equals 113.04. And now I'm going to take that number and divide it by 6, and I get 18.84, and my label is centimeters squared. 18.84 centimeters squared. Okay, so that's how you find the area of the sector. You find out what fraction of the whole it is, and you divide by that. All right, now let's take a look at example 4. In example 4, it says, in this figure, we have central angle AOC, and it tells us that that is 70 degrees. And then it asks us, what is the measure of the major arc ADC? When we're labeling a major arc, we use 3 letters to show that it is a major arc. If I was talking about arc AC, that would be this minor arc here. This is the major arc. Now, one thing to keep in mind, we can measure an arc in degrees, and the number of degrees in an arc equals the measure of the central angle. Okay, so if this central angle is 70, the measure of this arc would also be 70. Okay, so if that's 70 and a whole circle is 360, to find out what ADC is, I would simply take 360 minus the 70 degrees, which is this arc, and I would wind up with 290 degrees for ADC, the measure of ADC. Okay, and one more to take a look at, example 5. It says a minor arc with a radius of 2 centered on the origin is drawn from the positive x-axis to the positive y-axis. What is the length of that arc? Okay, so we have this here, and we're going from 2 to 2. Now, we know this is really a whole circle, and we're just using a part of it there. Trying to get my drawing a little more circular. Okay, so what do we know? Well, we know that a minor arc is less than 180 degrees, and as you look at this, this is 1/4 of the whole circle. So we can figure out the whole circle and divide it by 4 to find out what the length of this is. Now, how do I find the length? Well, the length of the whole thing would be the circumference, and the circumference is pi times diameter. Circumference equals pi times diameter. All right? Now, if circumference is pi times diameter, I just noticed my video is the wrong direction, so we'll see if we can switch that later. All right, if the circumference is pi times diameter, we know that the diameter from here all the way to here would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Because the radius is 2, the diameter is 4. So I'd have 3.14 times 4. But notice this is only 1/4 of the whole thing, so we're going to end up dividing by 4. Now look, I can cancel top and bottom. 4 cancels with 4. 4 goes in there once. 4 goes in there once. 3.14 times 1 is 3.14 over 1, which is 3.14. And my label in this case is just units. And that's it. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to call, text, email, or join me online tomorrow between 9 and 10 o'clock, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. Have a fantastic day.